Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? Got an awesome panel today, a couple returning guests and a first timer, and I'm very excited to have them all. I hope you guys have been having a good week. I hope also you've been eating up this delicious dip that we're having right now. The first, it feels like the first actual longer than 5 minute dip. A lot of them have been very brief, but hey, enjoy it while it lasts before sats get much more expensive. Anyways, this is live, of course. Anything can happen, so I defer to my friend Bill here.
Live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. They help a ton getting this in front of more eyeballs. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our guests, I am first going to pull up timechaincalendar.com to check out where we are in the markets. And simultaneously, I'm also pulling up the live chat. Anything you say from here on in will be live for the world to see, for better or worse. But back to timechaincalendar.com, we're sitting at $68,291 per coin. A single US dollar will pick you up 1,464 sats. In terms of fees, next block, you're looking at 19 sats per byte. Anytime, 6 sats per byte. And Bitcoin mined, 19.66 million of them. That is 93.6% of the entire supply. And the halving is only 35 days and 19 hours out. That puts it in and around 11 a.m. on April 20th, 420. Poetic. Shout out to sponsor the show. Obviously, first off, really quick, if you are going through some of the tutorials on the channel and you're having some difficulty, maybe it's not quite cutting it and you need some one-on-one help, you can reach out to me at btcsessions.ca and book me up for one-on-one education sessions. Shout out to HodlHodl. If you are buying Bitcoin and you have some priorities in mind that include peer-to-peer trading, instant self-custody, and no KYC, this is an awesome place to be. You can sign up with just an email address. Once you're in, you choose your currency, payment method, and an amount, and you can start viewing offers immediately. They also have peer-to-peer lending with no rehypothecation. Check them out at the links down below. Now, of course, once you get your hands on some Bitcoin, you're going to want to secure it with some of the best hardware on the market. I love CoinKite and everything that they do. The cold card queue. I've got my first device arrived. I was able to pump out a couple quick tutorials. Going to be doing more soon on it because there's so many different features. But if you're looking at reserving one of those or picking up any of their other goodies, the Mark IV, the Tab Signer, the Block Clock, any of that, head over to coinkite.com. You can use code BTC Sessions for a nice discount at checkout. Backups are important as well. Seedor has one of the best and most robust options on the market. As a disc and capsule design so that you can stamp your seed into solid steel and protect it from the elements, fire, water, corrosion, all of that. Comes in a full set that gives you everything you need to get your seed stamped. If you ever need to switch out the info, swap out the seed, the discs are super cheap and you can just order replacements no problem. Check them out. Links are down below for the best shipping options for you. And last couple shout outs, of course, Nunchuk.io has you covered for assisted multisig with their Honey Badger program. This allows you to set up a multisig wallet on your phone with items like the Tap Signer, Cold Card, and plenty of other hardware options. Once it's all set up, you have a multisig vault requiring multiple keys to unlock it. And the whole thing has baked in inheritance planning. So if anything happens to you, your sats get to your next of kin and you have peace of mind. And one of my favorite things, no KYC. You don't need to give up your personal information to set it up and have it work for you. So check them out, nunchuk.io, and I have a tutorial as well. And finally, Start9, your sovereign computing solution. These guys have plug-and-play devices in which you can host not only your Bitcoin stack, but your digital life as well, and get it out of the hands of large corporations. Take back control of your digital life. So what can you run? Things like Bitcoin Core, your Lightning node, mempool.space, join market. Also, files, passwords, photos, Nostr relays and clients, AI tools without censorship, all kinds of awesome stuff. So they have everything from entry level all the way up to what I'm running, which is the Start9 Server Pure. You can check them out at start9.com. And if you're looking at that Server Pure, use code BTC Sessions with a plus sign at the end. That will get you 18% off. Anyways, enough of my rambling. Let's get our guests in here and get rolling. So I want to welcome to the stage Flo, aka Love is Bitcoin, Mr. Eric Yakes, and Big Mr. Sean Harris. I'm going to give us a shuffle here really quick. But welcome to the show, everyone. Let's do a quick round of intros for anybody unfamiliar. I'll toss it to Eric first, multiple returner to the show. Welcome back, man. Can you intro yourself?
Yeah, I think this is what is this, round 3, I believe. So I'm getting more and more bullish every time. I'm Eric Yakes. I'm the author of The Seventh Property. It's kind of how I started in this industry, and I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I'm a part of the Space Denver, which is a new Bitcoin community that's launching. And I think that there's a few guys in the chat right now who are talking about the space. So that's kind of becoming the biggest part of my identity.
That's pretty awesome, man. And I got to say, I've got my signed copy of your book up on my shelf. It'll be held near and dear forever. But honestly, if you haven't read The Seventh Property, I firmly stand by my position that it's one of the best books written on Bitcoin out there. So grab yourself a coffee. Yeah. Let's rotate down. I'll toss it to Flo. Welcome to the show. I feel like I was just, in your presence not long ago, because it was just, what, 2 weeks back now, maybe, that we were in Madeira for Bitcoin Atlantis. But welcome to the show. Can you give yourself an intro for anybody unfamiliar?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm Flo Montoya. I'm a Bitcoin artist. I work in Lobby's Bitcoin magazine. I give life to the character of Libby. And I also work for Panties for Bitcoin.
Awesome. And I've got to say, Panties for Bitcoin, they are the best family. They are so sweet. They're amazing people. Love them.
It's been great working with them. It's very different from any other experience I have had with any company. Yeah.
They're fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. Well, welcome to the show for the first time. And we'll bump down the line one more time to Mr. Big Sean Harris. Dude, welcome back. How are you doing? And give yourself a little intro for anybody that might not know.
Thanks, Ben. So this is my 3rd time as well on the show, if you don't include Christmas shows. What I do in Bitcoin, I am Ben Perrin's hype man, because he deserves all the hype in the world. He is doing Satoshi's work. So as well as being Ben's hype man, I'm also part of the meme factory, and we make the funny memes. We do the laser eyes, and we're doing the halving party in El Salvador that's coming up pretty soon. So I'm really excited for everything that's going on. But Bitcoin is only getting better because of guys like Ben. So thanks, Ben, for everything you do.
You're too kind, and I'm stoked to see you down at the halving party in just a couple of weeks here. It'll be my first time to El Salvador, so I can't wait. And what's that website? Halvingparty.com or
bitcoinhalvingparty.com.
Bitcoinhalvingparty.com. If you were uncertain if you were going, well, now you're going. You go get a ticket right now, because it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a blast. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into it. Anybody that is joining the show that is unfamiliar, you've never been here before, don't know what's going on. Simple premise to the show. This is called Why Are We Bullish? Each one of us comes with a reason for being bullish in and around Bitcoin. And the reasons can take any form. It could be as simple as a new video or article we read. It could be a news item. It could be a new app or a new device that we're hyped about. It could be really anything. So the flow of the show is that, number one, somebody's going to drop a reason why they're bullish. This is their chance to rant on it and get us all hyped up and as excited as they are. Number two, all together, we're going to riff on that reason. Comments, questions, whatever rabbit holes we want to go down. And then finally, number 3, we're going to rotate to the next person until we've all had a turn. So reason, riff, rotate, simple. Once again, I'll say to the guests, don't drop your reason early. Wait until I ask you your reason for being bullish so that you still have things to say by the time we get to you. So with that, I'll kick us off this week. And I gave this one a little bit more thought this week. Usually it has something to do with, you know, a new item that I've been working on, or a tutorial that I've done, or you know, some bit of tech that I've been working on. I guess to a degree it is that, but it's also been some stuff that we've seen building in the news, and something that happened this week as well. So I guess I'll preface this by saying, governments like to steal money from people in many different ways. You know, you've got your typical taxes, you know, coercion. You've got more insidious debasement of the currency, but you've also got instances of just blatant corruption and misappropriation of funds, right? Like, you pay your tax dollars, it's supposed to go to certain things, and then some politicians just literally steal money, or it's so opaque that you don't know where the money has gone. You know, we've had examples of this in Canada. One of the ones that's hitting the news more often lately is we had this horrendous app called ArriveCan that people basically had to have on their phone in order to go into and out of the country during the pandemic. And the people guesstimated what the app should have cost to make, which, I mean, it was broken as hell the entire time anyways, and barely worked. But they spent, they actually don't exactly know how much was spent on it, because the reporting and where all the money went is just so completely, it was fraudulent, right? Like, they hired in, you know, buddies that ran a firm out of like a basement of a cabin that did, you know, they're called an IT firm, but they don't actually do IT. And there's like 2 guys, and they paid them $60 million to make this app that just did nothing and was broken half the time, and could have been put together for maybe 50K. And so, you know, that's one example, but realistically, it's kind of everywhere. You've got the current system, which for the average citizen equates to draconian surveillance, where even the tiniest transactions need to be cataloged and reported. Your $600 Venmo needs to go somewhere off to the IRS. But at the same time, it's just fine and dandy if the Pentagon misplaces $2.3 trillion. Like, whoops, we just failed our 6th audit in a row. Whoopsie daisy. And that's kind of the existing system, where it's like rules for thee, but not for me. I believe we're starting to see an inverse of that system being built in parallel. I believe that we're getting to a place where it will be possible to have overt and simple auditability of funds whenever there's a government, or even like a corporate entity in place that has responsibility over funds for large amounts of people. And that precedent is kind of being set in real time right now. So one example is a number of the ETFs have publicly listed Bitcoin addresses. And so you can kind of see all of the funds sitting there. And it's kind of cool. Like, you can just track and you know exactly what the address is and where everything is. But more importantly, this week you had, even though it wasn't everything, you had El Salvador say, hey, look, here's our one of the Bitcoin addresses, and we're going to put some of our funds in it. So citizens now have some auditability into El Salvador's Bitcoin treasury. And so now you're in a situation where everyday citizens can load up and follow the balance of a company's or a nation's Bitcoin treasury on their smartphone, and just like in real time at any point, just whip it out and be like, oh yeah, so El Salvador has this much Bitcoin sitting in their wallet right now, and just see that. At the same time, in tandem, you're having technologies being built because obviously Bitcoin isn't entirely private. It's actually quite bad for privacy. But you have tools being built to offer individual citizens far greater privacy. Things like, obviously, we've had CoinJoin for quite some time. Lightning, from a sender's perspective, gives some additional privacy. Liquid, in terms of the amounts being sent, gives some obfuscation there. And then you have systems like Fedimint and Cashew that use these Xiaomi and eCash systems, which are basically near perfect privacy for small community funds. And so I'm of the opinion that individuals, as we try to do, should always be innocent until proven guilty. There should be the assumption of innocence, and with that should be afforded the utmost privacy at the individual level. Whereas those whose jobs it is to safeguard and properly allocate funds on behalf of many, many people should be held to the utmost scrutiny and absolute transparency at all times. And I hope, and I kind of think that this may be where we're headed over time, just because of Bitcoin's incentives, because it is possible to demand this of governments and companies to show this type of information publicly without compromising their security. And it is possible to give individuals privacy on a very basic level back and forth for their day-to-day expenditures. So that's why I'm bullish, because I see a precedent being set by these large entities. And I also see a precedent being set by individuals building tools for the everyday person. So that's where I'm at. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this, and whether you want to poke holes in it or whether you think that we may be headed that way. I'm curious. Anybody who wants to jump in?
I can easily jump in on that, and I think that's a pretty. I wasn't expecting such a cool reason for why you're bullish. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
like
you read this about some bullshit, hey?
Yeah, well, I thought there was going to be some sort of number go up type, and that's all good stuff. But yeah, the privacy tech, yeah, it's pretty cool, man. And I think that I think about this a lot, and from the economic perspective, what Bitcoin did is it pushed up until all prior forms of money had these very expensive forms of verification. It's very costly to verify, gold and to audit banks. Whereas Bitcoin kind of created this ability to, in economic terms, it lowered the marginal cost of verification to, approaching zero, very close to it. And I think that's what's really interesting is that's just, it's a product of cryptography, and it's a way that we can leverage cryptography. It's like your point about using things like Xiaomi and eCash banks. That's something else to where we can take the idea of a bank, which prior to Bitcoin, using these cryptographic systems, it's very expensive to audit a bank. It's very expensive to actually verify that. It's like the only way you can really do that is by executing a bank run or something, and really proving that the reserves exist within the bank. And we're using cryptography with these novel technologies to lower the marginal cost of verification, even for that scenario. So that's a step beyond just what Bitcoin does for verification. And that's huge. That's massive. That changes the incentives for how we can verify institutions and, custodied Bitcoin or shared custody forms of Bitcoin. And I think that by doing that, we can create these banking systems that function, in the best interests of the users, because it increases information transparency in the entire system. That allows us to actually audit things, because it's not that we can't do it. It's that it's economically expensive to do it in the prior system. And that's the problem that we're solving with all these technologies. And yeah, it's crazy bullish.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know, Flo or Sean, do you want to dive in? Any thoughts?
Yeah, coming from a Latin American country, we see corruption all the time. So this is something I've been dreaming of, the moment that you can really follow the money, truly see what they do with it, when they move it, and how they spend it. And it's so beautiful that it's happening, extremely bullish. And I can't wait. I hope to see a moment where many more countries embrace this, and yeah, that's all I can say. Like, it's super beautiful, and it's so much. It's something we need, actually.
It is, and as it's kind of interesting to think that you, like you said, follow the money. You could in real time audit a government, and if they do anything shady with the funds, immediately you've got how many citizens' eyeballs on that wallet going, oh, well, these funds went here, and now they went to this wallet, and it seems that this is a service that does it. You know, like you have that transparency and instant questioning of whatever the hell is going on, which as it should be, when you have an entity that is so powerful and has so much responsibility. Yeah, they deserve that type of scrutiny, right?
Yeah, I mean, in Chile, for example, people don't know anything that happens with the money. Like, you don't even, when you go to the supermarket or whatever, you don't even see how much is paid in taxes and how much was we don't have, like, the law actually says it has to be like the full price in the store. So then nobody pays attention. Like, in the last piece of paper you get, of course, it's the detail, but like really small, and nobody reads it. And then, so nobody has like the actual feeling of how much of their wealth, of their money, is going to these guys. And then they talk to you in some big numbers, like our currency has like a lot of zeros, so it's like, I don't know how much that is, and we spend this much, and it's like super hard for regular people to really feel it, to really know, like, whoa, that's a lot of money. And yeah, I cannot wait for more transparency and to have them accountable. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. That's again, really good points. And let's hope that, you know, as things continue to happen, I do think that there's going to be this sovereign individual thesis that plays out to a degree, where people jurisdictionally shop for where they get the most bang for their buck. And one of those things that people may be looking for is, how transparent are you with your treasury? Like, if there are taxes involved in living in this jurisdiction, do I get to actually see where this money is going? And do I get to look at what you're doing, or is it all opaque? Because maybe I'll opt out. So yeah, I don't know. Sean, what do you think here?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts, because you started off saying how governments can steal from us, or they do steal from us in a multitude of ways. And it just has me thinking, you know, one of the things when I was first starting to learn about Bitcoin, I started to learn about all those ways that we get stolen from, and how we could get stolen from, you know. And one of the things that always pops into my mind is what happened in Cyprus back in 2013, when they had the bail-in, which was basically anyone that had over $100,000 in their bank account or an equivalent of that. And if you had more than that, it just got siphoned away and taken to the government. And so it was amazing to me how they justified that. Like, they thought that was okay, that they could just steal all of this wealth that people had worked for over their whole lives and then just take it. And so there's so many different ways that governments will justify themselves in stealing our wealth. And they won't stop if there's nothing that doesn't stop them. And that's what's so great about Bitcoin is this thing that's fully transparent. And if you look at the Federal Reserve, it's been around since 1913. And how many times has it been audited in 111 years? 0 times it's been audited. Because how would we even audit it? Like, who would do that anyway? Right? It's almost impossible to audit at this point. It's just so far gone. And then you look at El Salvador, and yesterday Nayib Bukele he goes out and posts, and he goes, "This is our wallet." He posts a picture from Mempool, right? "This is our wallet address. This is how much Bitcoin we've moved in there." And what happens? They get a bunch of people giving them more Bitcoin to their address, right? It's like, not only is transparency good, but people are starting to reward you for being transparent. And so you have these countries that are grasping on to the power that they have.
Yeah.
You have these other countries like El Salvador that are realizing, well, we don't have any power. We don't have any influence in the world. And Bitcoin is this one chance for us to gain, to make this shift. and it's at this opportune time. And so as more countries start to understand what Bukele has understood, it's going to be really fun to see this game theory play out and watch how it will go from, it'll be this sovereign individual thesis that countries will focus on providing a good country for their citizens instead of being so worried about having power and control and surveillance over their citizens, because people will just decide to move to whatever country treats them the best. Yeah. And so I think that's, as you don't get stolen from, as your country actually gives you freedom money, then you will want to live in a country that facilitates that helps you have a better life. And I think that's the good thing about governments not stealing from you versus government stealing from you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, you know, I did see some of those random additional tips come in. It's hilarious to think that everybody regularly at every possible legal way always tries to prevent giving the government any more money than they want to scrape away from you. And then you get an instance of a government actually doing something that benefited some people and being transparent about things. This may or may not be one of the first times that a number of regular citizens freely gave additional money to the government. But it is hilarious.
Remember when that one ETF, I can't remember which one it was, but they posted their address too. Yeah. And then people started sending them Bitcoin as well, like a month or so ago. It's like they're over collateralized in their own ETF.
I think I understand the sending extra money to the ETF less than at least maybe like with El Salvador, you're like, well, you know, they're doing a good for whatever reason. But like the ETF, like, I mean,
please don't give them more money.
Yeah, come on. This don't need any more. They can print more fiat and buy some more sats themselves from the suckers that will accept it.
If anything, it's an accounting nightmare for that CFO.
Yeah,
making his day hard.
Yeah. So it was pretty funny. But anyways, I don't want to dwell on my topic for too long, but I do think it's an interesting dynamic, and I do hope that we trend towards that. I know there'll be deviations from that. I know there'll be resistance to that, but I hope that kind of the free market that Bitcoin allows for, and this sovereign individual thesis and jurisdictional arbitrage and jurisdictional shopping will encourage this type of behavior more and more over time, to a point where we get to a world that if a government isn't publicly posting its Bitcoin treasury, it's very clear that they're probably doing something funny with the money. So yeah. With that said, we're going to do a rotation here. And I do have to give a couple shout outs in the chat here. Number one, Adam Meister was in here. I think he still is, but absolute legend, been around forever doing shows. Dude is awesome, and actually was kind enough to be one of the first shows to invite me on as a guest like 7 years ago. So so shout out to Adam. I also want to give a shout out to Tip, who is an absolute legend. Is Tip coming down to the halving party, Sean?
Yeah, she's gonna be there, and she's doing a live performance. Her performance called Dawn, if I'm not mistaken. So it's gonna be her live performances they hit different. So
yeah, I'm super stoked for that, because I couldn't see her on stage because they had me working all the workshops in Madeira, so I didn't get to see her live one there. But I will be front and center for that one. Yes. And then last shout out, but I see Jaime there in the chat, and he's one of the nodes of the Me Premier Bitcoin educational camp, and awesome dude, and he's been part of the local sat market here in Calgary as well. So anyways, enough of my chat shilling here, but anyways, we'll do a rotation. I want to toss it over to Eric next, and I'll just cue you up with the simple question everybody gets: why are you bullish?
I'm bullish for two reasons. First and foremost, there's a lot of hodlers of biddies out there right now, and I think that that's one of the most bullish, if not the most bullish thing that's happening in Bitcoin right now. Number two is Bitcoin communities, and I think I kind of broke the only rule of not alluding to my bullish reason in the beginning, but I did, and I think that look out in Denver, we've got the space emerging, and we got a lot of strong lads and ladies that are supporting this, bottom up Bitcoin community, and it's really cool. I think back in the fall, me and some of the guys got together and we're like, why don't we build our own, Bitcoin Commons, Bitcoin Park type place, and how do we do this in a really member owned way? And within a matter of months, we've organized this large community of people who want to all get involved with membership. And we're talking to companies that are looking to sponsor and support it. And it's not just us. This is happening all over the world. And I think that like the ability for people to organize around a shared set of values, promoting freedom, promoting Bitcoin, promoting open source technology, and the fact that this model can be replicated all around the country, and it's it's something that's happening so rapidly. I think that that's also one of the most bullish forces. I think that a lot of the education is coming at the local level, and a lot of advocacy as well to people in the broader community is coming at the local level. So yeah, I'm really excited. We also have Tatum Turnup as our intern. So that's another very bullish aspect of the space.
I mean, if anything, he'll he can be used as human shield because he always has his vest on, right? So
oh yeah, totally.
It's very important.
Now, yeah, but the problem is he got his car stolen. So how's he going to get around?
It's so funny, man. He moves out to Denver and he's like, I'm coming to Denver, and then he didn't have a car for like a whole month, and I'm picking him up and driving him around everywhere. And then like within 2 weeks of getting his car out here, the thing gets stolen. I was like, oh shit, man.
Didn't they find it and it was like full of drugs or something?
Yeah, it was in a very dark place.
Yeah, it was just Tatum did a deal and it went bad. He just didn't want anybody to know. No, that's I echo the community thing. Like I think that one of the most important things to help Bitcoin weather the storm that could be coming in terms of top-down attempts to stamp it out is having local communities. Because like, what's the first thing that gets attacked? On and off ramps. How do you prevent being attacked? You have a local community that and you don't need on and off ramps because you're just always on. You're always using Bitcoin. You are always utilizing it day to day. And if you need goods or services, you go to the person that you've created a one-to-one connection with, and you say, hey, man, can I pick up some eggs? Like try to stamp that out, right? Try and have the government say, hey, you guys that are friends, if I fucking find out that you go get eggs and give this guy some sats, you're toast. Like, that is unenforceable. And so, I mean, communities are so important. That's just one example of how they'd be important, but there's many avenues that could be explored there.
Yeah, and I think I feel like it was on the last one, the last Why Are We Bullish? I feel like we got into a similar conversation. I think you asked a question. You were like, is the adoption of Bitcoin going to come from, these bottom up movements that are emerging all around the world? Is this going to be some sort of top down nation state form of adoption?
Yeah.
And I think when we're getting into that conversation, it's just like, it's coming from all angles. And I think that, because Bitcoin is money, because it's economically aligned with the interests of society, it's something that everybody has their interests aligned with adopting it in some way, shape, or form. And that's why it's so easy in any conversation to be like, well, the game theory works out in favor of Bitcoin. And the game theory works out because it makes sense for the world to have something like Bitcoin. The game theory only works out for fiat money for minority groups of people in powerful positions. It's drastically misaligned with the interests of people for the vast majority of the world. and it's that powerful aspect that pushes it not only at a top down level where there's very selfish institutional incentives to want to adopt Bitcoin, and that's great, but also at the bottom up community based level, and when we're hitting from all every angle, that's what makes it inevitable.
Yeah, I just got to give a shout out to the best comment of the show so far. Dom says that Tatum's car is unable to utilize any off-ramps. That's great. Flo, what's the community like down in your neck of the woods? What's it like down there?
It's really starting, I think. It's small. I mean, there are people who have been in the space for many years. There was like a Bitcoin ONG or something like that. I don't quite remember the name, but the thing was, me and my family, because we are all very hardcore Bitcoiners, never got too much involved in it because the scene was really shitcoinery. So that was like, we didn't pay much attention, I guess. And last year we actually said like, okay, this is important, like all what you guys have said, like we need to be more part of this, and actually it's been better. And also, well, Chile has like a very weird Bitcoin history, because at some point, for example, all the exchanges that were operating here got their bank accounts shut, like from one day to another, like all together at the same time. So all banks were, of course, talking about this. So they had their accounts shut for 1 month. This was a lot of news. So people were like, oh, this is really a scam and blah, blah, blah. And they actually had to sue the banks. And luckily, the judge said until the sue is like over, they had to reopen the account. So the banks were only closed for 1 month, but that got really bad publicity. And since then, the second effect has been that since then, no new company could enter the space because no bank would open a new account because they were all in this thing. So I think that's also been something very important in how this has developed, and it's been slower than in any other country I've seen in Latin America, at least. And also, I think sometimes when you have like a lot of privilege in financially, you think, oh, what can I do with my money? I don't want to lose value. When you are like very extremely not privileged, like you are the opposite, like, okay, how can I survive this? I look for alternatives. But when you're like in the middle, I think it was the case of my country, I guess the question doesn't come that easily into people's heads. Like they are like, okay, this is good. If we compare with the next door country, like it's not that bad. So, but also I don't have that many savings so that I can think of how to invest this. Financial education is not that cool. So I don't know if you lost me or if I lost.
No, you're still there.
Okay, so I got a really red thingy. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Chile is a very weird country in that regard. Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious when that came about. So when they shut down all the bank accounts of these exchanges, was there a little bit of people trying to troubleshoot and doing peer-to-peer? Like did any of that come about, or was that just not really?
No, it's really small. Even today, we try to do peer-to-peer all the time. I'm getting paid in Bitcoin, so of course I'm one of those persons that has to sell Bitcoin to spend for their needs. Yeah. So that's really hard. I'm always asking around, like someone wanna buy, and it's it's not very much. But I think again it's growing, but at that moment no, I didn't.
Interesting. I guess it just speaks to the fact that we need better and more accessible tools for peer-to-peer, right? We need it to be easy so that anybody can, without having to be technically literate, can find others to exchange Bitcoin with. So yeah, that's very interesting to hear. Also, apparently we are live in the Don't Stop Believing space right now. So so maybe I'm going to do a shill and tell everybody to come down to the halving party if we're in there right now. So yellow. I hope you have air horns are going or something like that as I'm saying that. But yeah, no BSV spaces. Anyways, I want to toss it to Sean. Sean, what are your thoughts on community? I mean, you're obviously big on it. What, you know, in and around what Eric is saying here, anything you want to go down?
Yeah, I think one thing that kind of got brought to my mind is I think that there still needs to be more Bitcoin education in the Spanish language. I think that's definitely something that I've noticed is there still is a lack of education in Spanish. There used to be a lack of education in the English language. You know, when I first got started in Bitcoin, like in 2017, there wasn't a ton of Bitcoin only podcasts and articles, books that you could read. So I think as more education comes along, then more people understand. Like, people should be upset in Chile when they're shutting off these Bitcoin exchanges. They should be upset and they should be asking themselves, well, why are they doing it? But a lot of times they're just so wrapped up in the fiat world that they think, oh yeah, that's good. You know, like that's for criminals, and they believe the propaganda that they're fed. So I think going along with what Eric was saying, it's good to have that social layer, because if you are the only one that understands what's going on, you can kind of feel crazy at times. And so like having other people around you, like when I first started going down the rabbit hole, for probably the first 2 years, I didn't have anyone that I could talk to about Bitcoin with. No one in my family, none of my friends. So you start to like go a little crazy, and then you get on Twitter and you go, oh, okay, there's actually people who see what I'm seeing that's going on right now. Like, we're all getting stolen from, and the government's treating us unfairly. And so, but then when you start to meet up with these people, and that's why I love, you know, I've gone to a lot of different conferences, and I go to our local meetup out here where I live, and I've gone to a lot of different local meetups, even in Europe when I was playing basketball out there. And it's fun because there's people that are aware to the issues that are going on. And as you talk with those people, you can come up with new solutions faster than they can block us from creating those solutions. And I think that's what's so great about that social layer that is very overlooked. You know, a lot of people say, like, you know, nothing's going to stop Bitcoin, but if the people just decide to give it up, like that's how we lose, is we just don't keep working at it. We don't keep working on it. We don't keep spreading adoption, and we just fall prey to fiat and the monster that it is. So as we continue to spread that education and the knowledge, then we actually give ourselves more freedom by giving other people that freedom as well. So it works both ways.
Yeah. It's it compounds over time, right? Like as you said, there wasn't a lot of you know, back in the day, there was nothing to really find. You know, there'd be the odd podcast that you might be able to find. I think I remember there was 1 or 2 podcasts that had anything about Bitcoin, and I would have to wait each week to listen to like the one that I liked. It was like Trace Mayer's Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast. And I was like, would wait every week to be like, can somebody just tell me how awesome Bitcoin is in my ears for like 30 minutes? That's all I need. And now it's like you never get through it all.
You can't get it. There's more Bitcoin content that gets put out there than we can listen to.
Yeah.
Back in those days, you'd have to listen to the altcoin podcast, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And then like they would talk about altcoins for like 50 minutes, and then 10 minutes they talk about Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, this stuff actually makes sense.
Yeah. I remember my disappointment when Epicenter Bitcoin just became Epicenter and they started chilling like Ethereum and all the other trash. And I was like, oh, guys, come on. Even though I hadn't quite honed in on why Bitcoin only yet, it still threw me for a loop. And I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. When I was first learning about Bitcoin, and you know, I understood the problems with central banking really well. And you know, when I was first pitched to me, it was like, oh, it's this new blockchain technology, and that didn't make any sense to me at all. I'm like, okay, well, the same arguments like this was going around today on Twitter because of the Vanguard CEO saying, you know, it doesn't produce cash flows. It's a speculative investment. It doesn't have any fundamental value. And I had that exact perspective. I'm like, well, if it's some sort of technology, how do I value this technology? Once I understood, oh, this is an alternative form of money. Well, that's not something that produces cash flows. It's something that hasn't happened in centuries. It's this very novel thing. And that made a ton of sense to me. I just didn't realize for the longest period of time that that's what it was. It was just some weird tech. And I look up YouTube videos and look at like how the blockchain's organized. And I'm just like, I don't really know what this is. And then like once you get into Bitcoin too, it's like I probably spent a year and a half, 2 years just, you know, spending my free time digging into all the other altcoins and figuring out what are the other consensus mechanisms and why are these ones better. And it takes so long, or at least back in that point in time, it was a lot harder to get led to the right resources and say like, oh, this is what makes Bitcoin unique. This is why, you know, none of these other coins can replicate these properties. This is what's fundamentally solving the problem. And yeah, but there's like the spider web of knowledge that people can get led into. And that can take up it's a huge opportunity cost of time where it's like, no, you could have actually ended up getting a lot deeper into some aspects of Bitcoin, which are more valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of the easiest things to realize is there's 21 million. And so if there's any altcoin that you add to that, then now there's more than 21 million, you know, like there's 21 million plus whatever else thing you're using, you know? And so it's just at the simplest level, it's just like there's 21 million and that's it. And that's so much, it's so easy to understand if you can think about it that way, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing trying to figure out the why of first the why of Bitcoin and then the why is Bitcoin different from everything else. And it takes time, but I will say that since 20 like the run in 2021, I've seen some people make some of the quickest course corrections from first coming in, finding Bitcoin, or sometimes coming in through some other like Ethereum or whatever, and then they get in and they start consuming some content. And as long as they get led to the material that explains why Bitcoin is different, as soon as they go down that path and they actually consume it, there's kind of no coming back from that. It becomes very difficult to parse, you know, this cohesive narrative that has been painstakingly put together over the course of years, but has remained relatively consistent versus the ever shifting, you know, whack-a-mole of like, now we do this because Bitcoin can't do, oh, it can. Well, we do this now. And we're ultrasound money, we're whatever. Like it's never shifting. And so like when you have a narrative that changes every other week, and then you have this relatively consistent, like, learning trajectory of what is Bitcoin, how do we understand it, and how is it evolving, it becomes a lot more clear. Even though Bitcoin is different things to different people, the qualities of it have remained consistent. So yeah. But with that, I think I'm going to put a bow on this topic as well. I enjoyed that. Again, the community angle I think is very important, and you know, building out stuff local and finding the Bitcoiners around you is incredibly important. There's a lot of good ways to do it too. You know, btcmap.org, finding all the Bitcoin businesses around you, going to your local meetup and actually making connections with people. Orange Pill app is sweet for like local specific finding other Bitcoiners. Satmap.app is another like finding merchants website. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of find the Bitcoiners around you. And then if you don't have a meetup, make a meetup and find Bitcoiners around you and start. And if you don't have merchants around you, I mean, if there's a bunch of Bitcoiners in a room at a meetup, you all do something. You all have skills and services and goods that you offer. Why on earth would you not accept Bitcoin for them, right? You all know that it's better money. Why would you not just accept it? So yeah, hold some people's feet to the fire. A lot of people just don't even make that connection. Like, I got to go fiat mine and then go buy Bitcoin. Well, not necessarily. You can just cut one of those steps out of there if you want. So anyways, we're going to do a rotation. I am going to toss it down to Flo now, and I'm going to cue you up with the same question everybody gets. Why are you bullish?
I have so many reasons to be bullish. I'm always bullish. I'm always bullish.
Great.
I'm a permabull. I have a Bitcoiner family, so that it's always optimistic in here where I live. But I am just getting down to one thing. Since I started working with Bitcoin companies, I've really gotten very bullish about like people building and the idea of spend and replace. And what we were just talking about, it's very like the community aspect, but then this merchant side of it. And also like the idea of maybe you can leave the Bitcoin standard now, like today. You don't have to wait till many other people start doing it and then you start doing it. It's okay. It's not that easy to start it when you're few people, but yeah, I'm bullish on BTs. I got this started. But yeah, I think since I started working with these companies, the thing was I just got very bored of fiat companies. It was very awful to like getting these conversations about like just to readjust your salary because of inflation and everything. Like in terms of the inflation here, your salary gets down a lot like each year. But if you convert that to for example US dollars or whatever, it's like much more, and nobody, like you have to fight for that. It's not a race. It's like I just want to get paid the same as when we started. Like I'm not asking for more. And yeah, that mindset and everything like that, and I didn't have any time for my art. It was a very hard place for me to be at that moment. And I said, like, I have to quit. I'll quit my job and I'll find something in Bitcoin. I don't know what, I don't know how, because I don't know how to do like, I'm not I don't know, a computer scientist or whatever. It's the first thing that you think when you're like building in Bitcoin, or I don't know how to make a hardware wallet or stuff like that. Luckily, I found amazing people who saw something in me, and I've been living in the Bitcoin standards from that moment on. I have a lot of support. I'm not going to lie. Like I have a lot of support from my family, so I'm trying to get in there and walk in that road. But it's something that's got me very bullish, and that I hope more people get to do and to feel and to experience, and not be afraid of, because you spend some sats, you're going to be like the pizza dude. Yeah, I mean, if you're spending fiat, that's fiat that you didn't convert to sats. You just don't have the exact timing of how much it was. But yeah, that's I think my main reason today.
I like that. I like, well, number one, that you said you can be on a Bitcoin standard today. You can. You're right. It's not necessarily always easy. There's additional hoops to be jumping through, but on an ideological level, as you mentioned, if you're not spending Bitcoin, like if you don't have to spend Bitcoin, this is a paraphrase from a quote of Francis Pouliot's panel in Madeira. If you don't have to spend Bitcoin, you're short Bitcoin, because that means you have fiat to spend. And so like every dollar that you're spending is the opportunity cost of when it could have been sats. And so I know that that's not a comfortable place for some people, and like that fluctuation from day to day or week to week or month to month can be difficult to navigate with cash flows and things like that. But I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years. Some months it kind of sucks where you get a paycheck and then shit drops and you're like, oh. But what's the meme? Green, 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 red.
Yeah.
More often than not, you're doing pretty well. Once in a while, there's a year that kind of sucks more often than not, but the majority of your time, you're quite happy. As long as you provide value for others, you spend less than you earn, and you save in Bitcoin. And so if you can kind of master those skills as being on a Bitcoin standard forces you to do, then you're well off. So even if it's temporarily painful and it causes you to need to adjust your habits, the newly formed habits will greatly improve your life moving forward for years to come. So I'm a huge advocate of just jumping onto a Bitcoin standard if you're in a position where there's some resources where you can make it happen. And if not, start building them yourself, build that local community, and you can at least partially get onto a Bitcoin standard right off the hop. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say too, I think it's really interesting, you know, being on a Bitcoin standard. You know, I personally, maybe I'm a little bit short Bitcoin because I'm not, I still pay a lot of my bills, all my bills in dollars. But I would say what's interesting about it, at least so far, is this is also what kind of, you know, there's a lot of like degens that come in that want to flip $200 to become a millionaire or something like that. But with Bitcoin, we're just worried about, okay, I want to earn my money. I want to earn more than I spend. And then I want to save that in Bitcoin. And so for us, it's not, you know, the biggest thing that people say all the time is that Bitcoin is this speculative asset. And for most hardened Bitcoiners, it's the opposite of a speculative asset. It's our savings.
Mm-hmm.
And crypto, it like all those cryptos, people are flipping in and out, trying to find when the pump is, when the dump, but get out before the dump happens. And with Bitcoin, you don't see that very often. You see most Bitcoiners, what are we trying to do? We're just trying to increase our stack of Bitcoin. And yeah, sometimes we end up having to spend it. You know, maybe we have a business that you're trying to start, and that's savings. You know, that's what savings is. And, you know, and so that's how I look at Bitcoin is it's not this speculative asset. It's actually our savings. And most Bitcoiners, yeah, maybe we come in here for the gains, but then we realize there's actually a revolution going on here, and we use it as our savings. And I think that's what's hard for a lot of people to understand too, is they go, I need to buy one whole Bitcoin and I need it to go to $1 million right away. And it's like, or you could buy, you know, like $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and then just keep having reoccurring buys every single month from your paycheck. And, you know, when you explain like that to people, then it becomes a lot more manageable because it's not this huge thing that you have to overcome to get one whole Bitcoin. It's like, just get a little bit at a time. And as you get more, then you understand why it is our savings and it's not this speculative asset. Yeah.
Sean, also, just so you know, rest in peace, your notifications. I'm a little bit short Bitcoin. Sean Harris. that just went out to the Twitterverse.
That's awesome.
We all are. Everyone is except for Sailor.
We'll see what kind of replies we get by the end of the see what happens. Eric, what are your thoughts here on
yeah, I'm a little short Bitcoin as well. In terms of like from like a financial perspective, it's like I was talking to some of the guys who are, you know, part of like the Get on Zero type memeing movement, and like I get it. And I think that ultimately when you dig into the details of what it is, it's, you know, it's meant to what you're saying. It's just like there's a certain level of wealth that enables you to, you know, start living this kind of a lifestyle. And everybody has this balance between needing something that does have some sort of short-term liquid stability and then something that's long-term savings that actually is going to protect your wealth. And everybody wants to optimize for that. But what I caution everybody with is one of the worst positions you want to be in is, you know, a point where you do have to, you're not able to afford to pay for something that's very serious, whatever that is. And like wealth is insurance. Wealth is a way that we can self-insure ourselves for all these little risks that come about in life. And when you are subject to a large exposure of Bitcoin, you want to make sure that all your major risks in life are very well insured, whether that's directly through your wealth or some sort of other means, because that's also important too. And your time is much more valuable than Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's again, yeah, you just don't want to be in a position where you're on the sidelines when
Yeah.
suddenly you're able to afford many less sats than, I mean, we've seen that already in the past. I mean, just this year alone, it's crazy. Kind of, I mean, I don't think anybody assumed that we would have breached all-time highs pre-halving.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, Adam back in the fall saying 100K by halving, which like to me, I was kind, I kind of chuckled at it, and and now all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, holy shit, that's actually
okay by halving.
Like you never know. Like a lot has happened in a single month. Like even in Madeira, we went. I think when I got to Madeira, it was like 50. That was like that was a couple weeks ago.
And now we're in a dip at 68.
Yeah. Everybody's bearish at 68. Yeah. It is hilarious to see, and I don't know. Like it's I saw something in the chat here. Somebody saying it's hard to save in Bitcoin. FCA have regulated the industry. Only 10% of income allowed to be invested in crypto unless you're a high net worth individual or certified. What I would say to that is fuck those guys and go use peer-to-peer exchanges. Go use HodlHodl. Bisq has a new version of their exchange coming out pretty quick here. RoboSats is another option. I think in Europe, Peach is an option. But like, just find ways peer-to-peer to obtain Bitcoin. Like I would never let another individual tell me how much Bitcoin I can own. Like, quite honestly, go fuck yourself. So I would take that approach. And if somebody's telling you that you can't own a certain amount of Bitcoin and you do indeed want more, go get it. It's yours to get.
Unless it's a spouse, right?
Yeah. yeah. How many of us have had that conversation? You're not buying any. We don't need any more Bitcoin. Although I will say, you know what? I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my wife, Lisa. The other day, we're going through. So like in Canada, when you get a mortgage, your mortgage, it's not like you just get your interest rate for the entire term. You have to renegotiate every 5 years, even if it's fixed. Yeah.
Does it change with the fluctuation of interest rates?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like we have a rate that's like 2 point something, and next year it gets renegotiated, and we're looking and we're like, okay, well, this is what the payments are probably going to be. And then you have the option, you can pay a lump sum up to a certain amount without getting penalties. And we're kind of looking at it. And then Lisa's like, yeah, but like we could just hold the Bitcoin, and the amount of money that would go up versus like what we would save on our monthly payments. Why don't we just hold the Bitcoin? Fuck it. I was like, yeah, I mean, you really twisted my arm here, of course.
Hodl the biddies.
No, I don't want to.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, it's I think I think people are starting to weigh those opportunity costs in their day-to-day lives. I love to see it. Proud husband here.
Bitcoin is the ultimate opportunity cost.
Yeah, exactly.
I start thinking about everything.
I like the chat. David Wrong, Sessions' wife launching a speculative attack. Nice. Flo, I also wanted to, because I'm seeing biddies in the chat constantly.
Can we explain that? What is that?
So, I mean, it's the new unit, right?
It's a new unit, yeah.
I mean, Sats is the standard,
yes.
And when Adam back shills bits all the time, I'm fucking out. But I could probably, I could get on board with biddies.
Sats are for nerds.
Yeah. I need a handful of biddies is what I need.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm catching on.
Okay, well, with that, we're gonna do one more rotation. We'll put a bow on that last topic, and Sean, I'm gonna toss it your way, and same question everybody gets: why are you bullish?
Yes, I am bullish because something that I like to call the proof of work outside of Bitcoin, which puts me in like a Bitcoin Zen mode. And the proof of work outside of Bitcoin is just, and this is similar, very similar actually to Eric and Flo's reasons, is I just see so many businesses that are Bitcoin only that are being built that has nothing to do with actual proof of work that, when we talk about what Adam Back did, but but the actual proof, but there's proof of work that goes into building this layer that we're building, which are all these businesses and all of these tools and the apps and everything that we need on top of Bitcoin. And it puts me, what I said, it puts me in a Bitcoin Zen mode, because whether Bitcoin goes up or down, every time I look on Twitter, there's something better that I'm looking for. Like, oh, I wish Bitcoin could do this, or I wish I could do this with my Bitcoin, or, like a nunchuck, like I can multi-sig my Bitcoin and I can use those little tap signers as my keys to multi-sig. Like, it's amazing, all of the things that are being built on top of Bitcoin. And this is something that I truly believe. And I know I hype you up a lot, but it's true, Ben, because I really believe that with Bitcoin, you're only as powerful as you can understand how to use your Bitcoin. I think you have very limited power in Bitcoin if you only know how to receive Bitcoin and send it to cold storage. That's powerful. It's very powerful. But if you don't know how to set up a business and put it on, have a BTC Pay server or have any of those things, or you don't have people in your group that know how to do that, then it makes it harder for you. You can earn KYC free sats, and there's so many different things about building on this layer that are going on right now. Even things like what happens when you die, what happens to your sats, and there's so many different things that are being built on top of Bitcoin. This proof of work layer that's going on right now that I'm super bullish about. And as Bitcoin becomes the bedrock of our financial economy, every business will have to plug into Bitcoin. And so we're seeing that slowly happen. And that's why I'm so bullish about Bitcoin, because, this is truly a transformation that's going on and it's taking place. And if you're not paying attention, you're not even aware of all of this building that's going on, because it's happening online, and so you could be living your life, and there's plenty of people that we all know that have no idea of what's going on, right? I'll tell people that I'm throwing an event, the Meme Factory, we're throwing an event in El Salvador, and they'll say, why El Salvador? They don't even know, they don't even know that a country has made Bitcoin legal tender. So how would they know that a nunchuck is doing multi-sig? Yeah. Right. And so it's like, how many things, and I see new businesses built every day. And to me, that's one of the most bullish things, is that there's always a gap, and there's always places for us to get better at using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, which will ultimately lead it to being our unit of account, when sats are the standard. And one day people will wake up and things will be priced in sats instead of in dollars. And they won't even understand how it happened. And we're just watching it happen, in the background behind the scenes. It's so much fun, and we can participate, and we are participating in that happening. And so that's why I'm bullish.
I love it, man. I think, again, the Bitcoin only businesses, and not only that, like there's businesses catering to Bitcoiners, obviously, that are Bitcoin only. But there's also just regular day-to-day businesses that are incorporating Bitcoin in various senses. Accepting it and everything like that is great. But I mean, look at the success that any company has had by allocating Bitcoin to their treasury, just by using it as a savings mechanism. Like, look at how much growth Tahini's has had.
Yeah.
Like, to quote American HodlHodl, he was shitting on financial advisors around the globe and saying, why are you underperforming Tahini's restaurants? Like, and it's true. Like, there's a pretty simple tactic, again, and I say it again and again: provide value for others, spend less than you earn, save in Bitcoin. Like, it's a pretty easy equation there to figure out if you can provide value first. And so you know, and again, the builders in the Bitcoin space, some of the applications and some of the services, like first of all, BTC Pay. I'm glad you mentioned them. Just this incredible open source project being funded by the community. And they've brought so much value to people being able to trustlessly and independently be payment processors for themselves, cutting out those middlemen. Um, but I mean, even in that same space, you got Parker Lewis with Zapright. And like that's an amazing tool too. Like again, non-custodial, just like plug in your wallet information and it's just like a nice looking page where people can go and make payments and you can send out invoices. Um, you know, you've got the team at Mutiny and everything that they're building and in and around making Lightning as self-custodial, but as seamless and obfuscated to the background as possible. So you can just download a wallet, of course, in the app stores, but you know, in the advent of top-down coercion to be removed from app stores, just as a web app, and be able to manage your Bitcoin Lightning non-custodially. All this automation of Lightning is insane. And the Bolt, even Bolts, I got to give a shout out to Bolts because like they're building incredible stuff where you can effectively, the end game of what Bolts is doing is somebody being able to say, I accept Bitcoin, and it doesn't matter in what form. You just basically say, here's an invoice, and it'll say to the person paying, how are you paying? Lightning, on-chain, Liquid, probably more in the future. And it will simply interpret what the person who the merchant is wants to receive, what the person who the payer is wants to send, and it just does it in the middle, non-custodially. Like that's where we're headed, where it's like if you go to the grocery store, they don't give a shit if you're paying in cash or credit card or debit card or gift card. They just receive the money, and that's and in the way that they want it. Eventually, now we're going to receive it in the way that we want it instantaneously with plugins in the background where we don't even notice. So you're right. Like the Bitcoin builders that are building out this world, it's going to be seamless, and it's already getting there. I'll let other people jump in. I just like to get on those little.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think that there's also a very cool perspective in this trade of like when you buy something with Bitcoin. I was listening to I don't remember which podcast it was, but they were talking about this subject, and it was very beautiful because when you are a Bitcoiner and you are producing something and you want to sell it for Bitcoin, you immediately give your best. Like I think that when you're asking people to give them their Bitcoin, you have to give your ultimate best effort and provide the best value you can. And I think it because otherwise, like, you're cheating. Everyone is a scammer, they say, because I'm taking your Bitcoin, so I'll give my best effort. For me, as I don't know, as an artist, but I see it in the companies I work. I see the effort in Panties for Bitcoin. I see when we are doing the marketing in Lobby's Bitcoin, like the so much effort we put behind everything we do, because we know what we are asking people for. Like we know how valuable that is. So we give our best effort. And I kind of see that in other in companies where I don't work. Like I have that feeling too, like that when I pay with my Bitcoin, I'm receiving the best value that person can give at that moment, at least. And if they can improve, they will improve the product, you know, like it's something that is sticking in my mind from that podcast, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an artist actually when we saw each other in person and Dave was there with that roller of Madex's art. Madex, one of my favorite things that he says is if you're a merchant and you accept Bitcoin, and you sell your products or goods or services for Bitcoin and they're not top notch, you will not retain that customer beyond the initial sale. Because sats are precious and people start to think more carefully about where they allocate the fruits of their labor. And so moving forward, like the incentive structure is such that you need to be so good at what you do or what you make that it entices people to separate themselves from their sats. And that's a monumental task, as it should be. And it's not a monumental task nowadays to separate people from their dollars because they don't give a shit. They'll just spend, they'll buy the same trinkety shit, have it break, and then literally go back and buy the exact same one, knowing that it's crap and it's going to break again. So like it's just everything is disposable because so is the money. And so I think we're getting away from that. I think we're getting to hard money and hard products.
Yeah, I love how it kind of shifts us apart from this consumism, like to understand that this hardcore consumism is part of. It's not stupid when you have melting money. Like if it's melting in your hands, spend it and have something that has a little more value in a way, and then you're like you are in that mentality all the time. So why would you hold the money? It's you just buy stupid plastic stuff all the time that gives you a little joy for a moment, and then another one. It's like an addiction. So I love that this is going to bring us back to quality stuff. Like I remember like my grandparents, I don't know, refrigerator that ran for like all the years I could remember, and it was always working, and then you could like fix it a little bit and it still worked, and now everything is like let's throw it in the garbage because it is garbage, you know. So yeah, I love that.
Sean or Eric, do you want to dive in here at all?
Yeah, I think I think that one thing that's underappreciated too about Bitcoin companies is, this idea once Bitcoin becomes your opportunity cost, a lot of entrepreneurs are taking on a ton of risk, investing in people, time, energy, things that could be invested towards accumulating more Bitcoin, but instead they're taking on risk in a way that supports Bitcoin. And not only do I think that that's going to be much more valuable for them in the long run, but I think it's something that makes Bitcoin itself much more valuable. I think that this idea that, we have 21 million Bitcoin and we can send it to anyone in the world is, as we've realized over time, is a much more complicated problem. As Bitcoin gets more demand and becomes more expensive based on fees, we're trying to figure out all these different ways to scale it. And this infrastructure, whether it's a Lightning network, whether it's more trusted solutions like eCash or some of these other technologies that are on the horizon, there's these very, very smart people working very hard and sacrificing quite a bit to be building out a future that, if you think Bitcoin's just going to become digital gold, that's very valuable. It's going to be much more valuable based on that. But if you think Bitcoin's going to become freedom money, then these technologies need to be built, and Bitcoin's going to be 100 times more valuable if it can achieve that size of market with money. And so yeah, not only is it, I think, valuable to be doing as an entrepreneur, but I think that the future of Bitcoin and really just how much further its adoption spreads really depends. It's it's on the backs of these guys who are working on solving these really hard problems, and it's totally badass.
Agreed. Well, I don't know, Sean, if you have any last things to tag on here before I go into kind of beginning to round out, but I'll give you the last opportunity here in regards to this specific topic.
No, I mean, I guess I would just say, that Bitcoin, it just doesn't, it never stops amazing me about how much continually gets built on it. And there's no one really out there. Like there's no CEO of Bitcoin. There's no board of Bitcoin. And yet people, it's this thing that just continues to grow. And so I never get worried about it. I never get worried that government will ban it. I never get worried that it will just lose momentum. because I can see that the idea of Bitcoin is out there. I can see that by how many businesses are being built on top of Bitcoin. And so for me, I don't get worried about if the price goes down a little bit or if we're in a bear market. I understand what's going on in the bigger scheme of things, and that's that fiat continues to debase itself, and Bitcoin, there's only 21 million. And so the idea of Bitcoin is out there, and it's never going to stop. It's only going to go stronger.
Love it. Well, I think that's a good note to begin rounding up on. What I like to do usually at the end of the show is just do a quick hop over to each guest. Any final thoughts that you may want to get off your chest, but more importantly, I love to get recommendations from the guests of something cool that the viewers can check out. And this could be really anything. It could be a new video or article that you checked out. This could be even just like a piece of life advice that you think would be useful, or more specific, an app, a device, really anything that you think would be great. So I guess final thoughts. I mean, we focused in and around a lot of the, I mean, the theme of the show very much was kind of community driven, or communities holding those in higher places in the community to be responsible for them, and be transparent. And so I think in and around the community aspect of this, my recommendation is going to be, once again, to be a part of your local community, to find the Bitcoiners around you, to make those connections. If you're a Bitcoiner and you're of the mind that you're just going to have to hide away and never speak to anybody and never tell anybody that you're at all interested in Bitcoin, I mean, like, I understand to a degree the worry given the growth of Bitcoin and then the value of Bitcoin. But at the same time, I think Bitcoin survives and thrives when Bitcoiners band together. And so I encourage you guys to go to your local meetups, create one if you don't have one, and begin the process of figuring out, like, everybody, when they get into Bitcoin, they want to figure out how they can contribute. And so what better way to figure that out than to be in a group of Bitcoiners and actually chat with them and understand what other Bitcoiners need. And I think this is how we grow. This is how we win. And this is how all of the communities that we're seeing pop up now, that we've kind of seen pop up over the past number of years, whether it be Bitcoin Beach or Bitcoin Island or Bitcoin Jungle, like all of these kind of hubs that are beginning to proliferate around the globe. That's because Bitcoiners got together and brainstormed and built something cool. And I think when we have this ground up, permissionless way of connecting, then that's when great things happen. So let's make more great things happen. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Meet your local Bitcoiners, build. Eric, I'm going to toss it to you. Any final thoughts or recommendations?
I echo that sentiment. And I think that as you're looking into communities, and whether you want to replicate your own community outfit or you're just looking for one yourself, the Space Denver is most likely to be the best one. And you should definitely check out our website, denver.space, as well as our Twitter @SpaceDenver. We're looking for members. We're looking for sponsors.
I love it. Yeah, go check it out. And I mean, Tatum will be there to protect you. He's got a vest.
That's right.
Just in case. So, I mean, hit it up. I've not been to Denver. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah, we can do we'll do a podcast with me, you, and Tatum, or between two ASICs and a session between two ASICs.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Last time I was a guest, he embarrassed me, so I came back for his next episode and stole Joe Nakamoto's vape and blew it in Tatum's face.
I remember that one. Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. Let's toss it down to Flo. final thoughts, recommendations.
Yeah, like you said, pay attention to the communities. I'm really check out what people are building and pay attention to what artists are doing. Bitcoin art is growing so much. It's beautiful there. And actually, my last piece was inspired on hodlers. Yeah, it was like we are talking about more and more about this stuff, and I love it. And spend and replace and stay ungovernable.
Perfect. Great advice. Sean, off to you. Last final thoughts and recommendations.
Yeah, my recommendation as for a book other than The Seventh Property by the one and only Eric Yakes is I've actually just I just finished reading a book by 50 Cent called Hustle Smarter, Hustle Harder, which I know kind of sounds a little corny, right? But it's a really good read, especially as a lot of us are looking to become entrepreneurs or become owners of businesses. I think ownership, this is, one of my thoughts I've been thinking about lately, that ownership is very underrated. When you can own what you actually do, that no one can control your time, they can't control your wealth. And when you work for somebody else, a lot of times they kind of have a little bit of control over you. So I like 50 Cent's book a lot. It's been teaching me a lot as I'm in my own world, trying to earn more and trying to have more ownership over the things that I actually do. And so ownership is very underrated, in my opinion, not just owning your own Bitcoin, but owning your own work. And so I think that's definitely a recommendation I make. Hustle Smarter, Hustle Harder by 50 Cent. And the last recommendation is obviously come to the halving party in El Salvador, April 3rd through the 5th. We're going to be there. Ben's going to be there. Anyone else who's not going to be there, you're going to miss out, because we are dedicated to putting on the best halving party every 4 years, every 210,000 blocks. Yes. Yeah. We'll be dancing. We'll be making everyone else dance.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, that's great, man. And I can't wait to see you there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, Eric, Flo, Sean, thank you guys all so much for being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you getting bullish with me on a Friday evening. And yeah, have a great rest of your weekend. You're all welcome back anytime.
Love getting bullish with you, bro.
Thanks, Ben. Thank Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Flo.
No worries.
Later, guys.
Yes. See you guys later. All right. And everybody in the chat, thank you for being here as well. Much appreciated. Glad you guys could spend this Friday evening with me as well. Speaking of events, of course, we've got the halving party coming up. If you're in the Calgary area as well, we've got the Saturday market coming up in 8 days, actually. So a week from tomorrow. So if you're in Calgary, or if you're anywhere in Alberta, or for that reason in BC or Saskatchewan, or if you're in Montana and you want to cross the border and come up, please do. We're building up our local Bitcoin circular economy. We had one back in December for the first time. We're having one again in a week, and we're building up to a big one in July, and we'll talk about that in the coming weeks. But please do make it out. If you want to come, it's free to attend. Just show up, have a pocket full of sats, and get ready to support local merchants. If you still want to be a part of it, if you have a skill, a service, a good that you would like to sell for Bitcoin, and you can get to Calgary, reach out immediately. Reach out to dave@bitcoinbrains.com and let him know that you would like to be a merchant ASAP before we run out of space. You can also find out about it and all these other events at btcsessions.ca. There's an events tab, or just btcsessions.ca/events. You can find the Saturday market there. You can also find info about the halving party in El Salvador and some of the other events I'm going to be hitting up, which will include the Canadian Bitcoin Conference in Montreal in May, the Oslo Freedom Forum in Norway, and the BTC Prague in June. So you can check all those out. Those are all on the events page. Anyways, guys, with that, I am going to round out everything. Thank you guys so much for being here, and have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
HodlHodl Bitcoin.